I'm Kim Fulbright, and I'm a program coordinator for Activism and Education in the UC Women's Center. I've been here since the fall of 2004. I came to the Women's Center from Miami University, where I was an international studies and poli-sci major. And the reason I got involved in the Women's Center was that I came to UC for the Master's in Women's Studies program. So I got a graduate assistantship here and started working with Amy around sexual assault prevention. And in my undergrad, I didn't have a whole lot of specific background in Women's Center type work. I took some cross-listed classes, and I worked in an Indigenous women's organization in Australia for a summer, did an internship there. And I really wanted to take my poli-sci international studies background and apply a gender lens. That's why I came to this program here. And in the meantime, I got hooked on the Women's Center. I think that the work it does and the potential that it has for students is really, really important. And so my title has changed in the meantime, and I'm obviously a full-time staff member now since I graduated several years ago. But I work with students around activism and education, which is not surprising since that's my title. But that's super broad, and so it allows me to have some leeway in terms of kind of what the Women's Center has in its mission and its goals at the time, and being able to kind of be flexible with what the students need and want, as well as what we think the university needs for students. So I think it's a really great mix of allowing us to kind of decide as a center what our goals are, and then also at the same time being flexible with what the students want and need. So my, I think, primary responsibilities in the Women's Center are supervising the Reclaim Peer Advocate program around issues of sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, and intimate partner violence, and ACT right now, which is the Activists Coming Together program. And they're 2 year-long committed programs. Students interview in the fall for ACT, and for Reclaim, it's in the spring of the year before. So their goals are student development. So even though we have the Reclaim program, which is responding to our 24-hour helpline and working with students, staff, and faculty who may be victims or survivors of sexual assault, etc., we're able to focus on the group as a whole to really challenge ourselves and our communities around issues of sexual assault. And so I think that is a unique aspect to the particular program. There's many universities and communities have rape crisis centers and kind of programs like that, but I think because we're located in student life, we can focus on student development and learning based on each student's interests and what they're kind of trying to get out of it. We've had a lot of students graduate and go on to careers I think that they might have not known that they were going to aim for based on their work in the Reclaim program, maybe focusing on domestic violence survivors or focusing on sexual assault in ways that they wouldn't have even have known. So it's been a really great program, I think, for students in that regard, as well as in their own relationships in their own lives. We've had students who really, I think, start to recognize, and I think myself completely included in this, relationships are on a continuum of healthy and unhealthy in every aspect, not just romantic relationships, but and so really learning to challenge ourselves and recognize what's healthy and what we want to aim for, and what pop culture presents to us may not be the what we want to strive for, and what aspects we want in our lives. So I think that's a really great aspect to the program. It allows us to think of activism in an individual as well as a collective way. Really challenging in our own relationships is so personal, but then understanding it at a societal level as well, and what kind of myths and stereotypes are surrounding survivors of intimate partner violence and sexual assault. So that's kind of Reclaim. And then ACT, again, is a student development program where students who are already really active in the community, I think that they're students who completely bust through the students are apathetic myth, that they don't care, that they're not doing anything. They're already really active in all these various communities and projects and they come together in a non-competitive space to really learn from each other, have a supportive community, and not necessarily have to prioritize what agenda is more important than another. So I think a lot of times we think, like, if you're someone who's for sustainability and environmentalism, that's what you go for, and you can't connect it to anything else, that's your only mission. But it's not a healthy way to think of things. It's all linked together, and being able to talk with others who might be, maybe that's not their first agenda item, but, you know, working to end racism in our community, like, that might be theirs. And so how do they link? Why do we need people working on all these different projects at the same time? And learning from each other. So it's been a really great program. It's ending the first year to it. That made no sense. It's the first year is coming to an end. So we're having the students present their action projects, which are the projects they've been working on all year. Again, it's not necessarily that ACT has assigned these projects or anything. They're already what they're working on in their own lives, and then they're going to present what they've learned, the challenges and the successes that they've had in their work. And again, I think the most important has just been the community. They're not all women's studies majors or anything like that, and so, you know, if they're coming from computer science, or they're coming from DAP, or they're coming from these places where maybe they haven't had the feminist community, they've been able to build that together here. So yeah, the Women's Center is a great space on campus to just come and hang out. We've got games, we have books, we have a lot of comfortable chairs and tables so you can eat your lunch, do homework. It's quiet usually, sometimes it's not. It depends on what you're looking for, what day. But I think that, you know, it's centrally located on campus, and especially for students who either commute or you know, live off campus, and it's not necessarily really far, but you just don't want to trek home between classes or go to the library. You want to kind of have a different space. You can come here, hang out, meet other students you might not otherwise get to meet. We have, you know, specific programs that happen in the Women's Center that are Women's Center co-sponsors, if you will, like Soul Cafe, where Wednesdays at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. you can come and drink coffee and chat about spirituality, sexuality, feminism, that kinds of stuff. You know, I think those are conversations you don't necessarily get to have in your everyday life. And so coming together for those kinds of things in a safe space where people might challenge you, but it's not in a competitive or in a hostile way. It's just to, you know, really kind of hear where you're coming from, and being able to then learn how to listen to where someone else might be coming from is, I think, a great life skill to be able to have in our society currently. And then we have groups like Sex Explorers, which has formed this year. It's a student-facilitated group. It's here in the Women's Center, but it's not Women's Center sponsored. They meet Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and they talk about kind of the flip side of what Reclaim does, which is unhealthy relationships. Sex Explorers has spent more time talking about healthy relationships, what we're looking for in partners, what we're exploring in our college years, different kinds of sexuality, and I think applying it to our lives as well as pop culture and in general. So it's a really cool group. They've taken on some projects, so it's not just conversation, they actually do action as well. Like, for example, they formed a Relay for Life team where during Relay for Life you have to have a fundraising event at the cancer awareness and prevention, I guess, event. So this year they made underwear, they silkscreen underwear that said things like consent is sexy, yes means yes, and the Reclaim crane, which is right here, onto underwear, men's and women's, and then we had like paint and Sharpies and bedazzlers and all these different kinds of fun ways to then decorate the underwear. So students could come and buy them and then decorate them. So spreading the word about consent in a way that's fun and not necessarily like, you know, sex is bad or sex is dangerous only, but that it also can be really great. It's just a matter of recognizing the dangers and kind of the bad things that could happen in it. So it's a really positive group. We have, you know, people coming from all different communities too, so it's a really cool space. Another way to get involved in the Women's Center is we have volunteer and internship opportunities. We have specified projects that we want students to work on, just so we make sure that it actually benefits the Women's Center. But we also, it's really important that it's provides a learning opportunity and a skill set to students, so that they're not just coming and answering our phone or making photocopies, that it really will benefit their education and hopefully their resume in terms of being able to be ready for the job force, the workforce. So that's another way to get involved, and that's really easy to do. We're going to have it on our website so people can kind of just take a look and see if something fits in with what they're wanting, and if it doesn't, they could definitely contact us and let us know what they're wanting, and I'm sure it could fit in. But it provides a little bit more structure to, like, I want to get involved, I'm not sure how. They can get credit or volunteer. I think that the Women's Center has so much potential, which is what is so great about it, is it can be flexible with the times. I think the staff here is completely committed and passionate about the mission, and the students, staff and faculty, and the youth, and just the Cincinnati community in general. We're all very passionate about fighting against injustices, whether they're at an individual level, an institutional level, societal level, and I think that being able to be flexible is really critical. So just being able to change with the times, with generations that come through here, it can be frustrating and it can be really awesome that students come here through cycles of every 4 years they're gone and new ones are here every year, and so the work is really never done, and I think the most rewarding thing for me is just learning from the students, and so being able to learn from all these different people who are coming in, and like I said before, just being able to hear each other. I think that is something that is missing from so many conversations in society, to kind of really know where someone's coming from, being able to learn how to actively listen, and then expect that person then will actively listen to you. And you may not agree, and that's fine, but just being able to hear each other. We've constantly had goals and ideas that we just haven't had the staff or resources for, so I know that the Women's Center could do so much more just through the years. We haven't necessarily recently had a focus on any international students or any kind of alternative spring breaks or study abroad, that kind of stuff, and I think there's several staff members here who would be really interested and committed to, looking at feminism on a global level, women's work that's being done all over the world, and connecting that to our own community could be a really cool thing that happens in the future. I think the more students committed and, again, just willing to learn and challenge themselves and each other, the better the campus community is going to be in terms of tolerance and diversity and recognition of injustice that happens all the time, all over, and recognizing that when you're the person in your group of friends who calls something out that isn't right, that you're not the crazy one, that you aren't, a mad, angry person or anything. It's just that these aren't fair and that someone needs to do that. And so having that community where other people come together who have been kind of labeled that, I think can be a really validating and refreshing experience. And the reason that we call out those injustices is because we have joy and love for the world, and we think that people should be treated equally and deserving of equal resources and things that we know in our society hasn't happened. So I think just having that community is really important. It's also a great place to just come. We have free pads and tampons, razors, Harlequin romance novels, lots of things that companies send us to give to students, so we have them located here. So just even that, I think, can kind of be nice to know on campus it exists.